Hey y'all, Kevin Hutchison here with Realty Austin, and I am grateful to be a part of Stories Inside the Man Cave, a homegrown podcast just like my own business.
Well, they'll be able to clock this. They were planning for it. It's down. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the official gets in the way. The game's over. Gosh.
Bryan Mays, longtime brother from another, former co-worker for a very long time. Do you feel the same way that I have? It has taken almost 24 hours to even have a conversation about what went on or took place in Arlington yesterday. I
don't know if I know what went on yesterday, to be honest with you. I mean, as a Cowboy fan, like, I don't know, I assume like you from way back, you're used to disappointment at this time of the year, but a complete lack of discipline from start to finish at this point in the season, it baffles my mind how that happens, right?
Yeah.
How do you come out of the half, get the ball, and proceed to have at least two penalties, and then get bailed out by a roughing the punter and still have to kick the ball back? I don't know. The Cowboys were not prepared. They were not ready to play this game. They were not interested. It didn't seem like until the fourth quarter of even participating in the game. It's a joke what that was yesterday.
Very much a clown show, to say the least. Special episode here, the Dallas Cowboys Wildcard playoff debacle. Jim Saxton, State Farm Insurance, and Kevin Hutchison of Realty Austin are sponsoring this episode. We're going to break this down as much as possible in the next 15 to 20 minutes. B. Mays, in between shows there at the Channel of Champions, KVUE. That's been kind of a distraction for you today, and thankfully so. And you need a distraction. This has been a record-wise great season, 12-5, but it was a team comprised of mediocrity, lack of discipline, as you mentioned, and then we saw that how it ended was kind of fitting for a team that had no idea what they were doing. What was that? I mean, high-risk play selection. For a team that they said that they practiced that type of situation, it looked like they had just worked on that for the first time ever.
Well, they said they had worked on it. Apparently they worked on it incorrectly in that they didn't hand the ball to the official. The umpire spots the ball every single play. It has for years been the case. Why you hand the ball to the center at that point makes absolutely no sense. And I honestly don't think that Dak knew to hand the ball to the official, because you've been taught to hand it to the center, where they said that the umpire comes by, taps the ball, they're ready for play. I guess maybe they thought it would expedite the process, but the fact that they did not know that rule, to me, speaks volumes about the kind of instruction they're getting. Now, having said all of that being said, they still, as horribly as they played, and they shot themselves in the foot several times. That game was over several times.
Right.
They still, had they gotten that spike, had a play from the 25, plus going into the end zone to win the damn game. I don't know how it happened, but they were there and had a chance. But
that's how they've been all year. They try to stay in games. Yeah. And here's what our fearless leader, the Cowboys' fearless leader, Mike McCarthy, and Dak Prescott, this is what they had to say regarding that specific end-of-game debacle that was – it looked like the Keystone Cops out there, to say the least. Here's what they had to say.
Oh no, I have no problem with the call. We call the situation a church clock situation. We're this is something we practice every Friday and Saturday. So
everybody was set, and then honestly just got hit from behind, and then still there. When I gathered myself, saw 2 seconds and thought I could get the snap and get it down before time expired, and unsure exactly what happened other than that.
Yeah, and we don't either. All I saw was I've seen junior high teams execute something under duress much better than the Cowboys did in that situation?
Well, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is you gotta know that you've got X amount of seconds to play. And as the quarterback making the money that Dak Prescott is making, he's got to know that with 14 seconds to play, you've got maybe 7 to run a play if you're going to run up the middle like that. And in his mind, you've just got to count from 7 to 0 and get out. And it didn't happen. And, you know, it's frustrating because I do think this year they had the skill to win the NFC. I honestly think they could have beaten Green Bay. I think the worst possible thing that happened yesterday is they beat themselves for at least the 4th time. Denver beat them pretty good.
Yep.
They shot themselves in the foot multiple times on Thanksgiving Day. And then you figure in, the other games against the West, the AFC West, that they didn't play well. And, this team had the capability to go a long way, but they just could not get out of their own way. And that's frustrating. Who does that fall on? Does it fall on the coach? Does it fall on the players?
A combination of both, but ultimately it's Mike McCarthy and that staff. And for the Stories Inside the Man Cave podcast followers here, let's talk. Let's talk about the Cowboys. We want to hear we want this to be your destination for venting. As far as do it. Go on Twitter at Stories Man Cave. Let's hear from you. We've had a 24-hour rule. There is no rule that states that you put this behind you. You can't put this behind you. And one of the things, B, that really, really disturbed me more than anything was 14 penalties. 14, 7 of which, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe half of those were pre-snap penalties. When you're 18 games into the season, pre-snap penalties are not supposed to occur, at least not that many.
I agree 100%. Unfortunately, our Longhorn Connor Williams cannot go a complete game without penalties, and he had a couple yesterday that were costly. One big gain to CD in the first half that I think it was over 30 yards that just nixed that with a hold, I think, and then another pre-snap penalty for him. And it's at some point the Jones family has to realize that just throwing coats of paint over a pretty fast car isn't going to make that car the best car on the track. You've eventually got to change out the motor. And I know they go through coach after coach after coach after coach, but it seems to me like they haven't gotten the guy in there. Kyle Shanahan, young guy, has his fair share of issues. They don't have near the running backs. They don't have near the quarterback. In my opinion, they don't have near the defense. Now on the edge, I'll give you Bosa. But other than that, on the defensive side, the Cowboys played well enough to win that game yesterday. They got out-coached, out-prepared, and most of all, out-disciplined. And that's, to me, that falls right squarely on the head coach. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl. He doesn't do that without Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Is he the right guy after 1 season, 2 seasons, I guess, 1.5. We'll call last season without Dak really a half season. But I don't know. I like him. I know he's got ties to Central Texas, and he seems like a good dude. But at the end of the day, man, penalties. Most penalized team in the NFL. And there are 31 other teams, that are vying for that title, and the Cowboys seem to win it quite frequently.
Well, the thing that disturbed me first when it all started, you mentioned it when we first started this, but Randy Gregory in the neutral zone from the get-go. And I did not understand that. And that, it's between that, Connor Williams. We'll get to that in a minute because he's a free agent that's will become a free agent very soon. You talk about other issues of just execution, and it was almost like the moment was too big for this team. Did you see that? Because that's what it felt like, because they literally did not handle bully ball from the 49ers very well. Talking about the pressure of the game and the stage they were on.
I've never played in the NFL, Sean. Right. I've been to my fair share of playoff games, and the atmosphere in and around the game is different than it is a regular season game. And outside of the player introductions and the initial getting onto the field under the roar of the crowd, I just didn't get the feel they cared that much about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I think a couple of players had that look in their eye, like, you know, they're going to come back and do this. Dak, I love the guy. I don't feel like they've got enough of those guys. Trayvon Diggs on at least 2 plays didn't get the pick he was going for and essentially just gave up on the play. You can't have plays like that. You can't allow them that turnover and score on the very next play with a running play right up the middle, a guy that's clearly going to be the focus of their game plan.
No timeouts.
It just, I don't know. It reeked of unpreparedness.
No, that's
from a
exactly
coaching
what it
standpoint.
is.
You know what I mean? From a player standpoint, I didn't get the feel. I was pumped.
I was too. I was there, right there with you.
I was locked in, man, but I just didn't get the feeling they were locked in until the very end. Then it felt like, oh crap, we might actually lose this game.
Yeah, and that's
they get the, you know.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine last night. The Cowboys, and this dawned on me. You know, first of all, Jimmy Johnson, that entire coaching staff from so many years ago, they had a toughness to them. You could get cut day of. But I liken the Cowboys to the Texas Longhorns for the atmosphere and the environment that is created, meaning you arrive for that franchise as a lot of players come into Texas, and I don't have anything to confirm this, but what it seems like is just like they are here in Austin in the Texas Longhorn football program prior to Sark, they are taken care of. They are taken care of, and good players who have that toughness. Same with the Cowboys. They don't have that toughness. Does that make sense? They're there's a sense of entitlement.
I think that word entitlement is thrown around a lot when referring to Texas. And I get it. I understand it. I've been following the team since the 70s. And teams that are good, i.e. 05, 08, 09, in recent memory, have those guys on it that you think Casey Studdard comes to mind. You know, these guys that will do literally anything to win. If it means kicking their grandmother in the shin, they're not scared. They're not scared to do that. I mean, you know guys I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bobineau.
Go through a list.
Bobineau comes to mind. Linebacker, undersized.
Aaron Harris.
Not the fastest guys, but by gosh, when that game was on, no one wanted any part of those guys. It's usually defensive front 7 guys and offensive linemen that kind of set the tone. And I just don't see the Cowboys, if we're getting back to the Cowboy segment.
Right, yeah.
I just don't see those guys. Connor Williams, heck of a ball player in college.
Yeah.
You know, they've got many think the best guard in the game in Zach Martin, but those aren't guys like the guys from the 1990s Cowboys offensive lines that, were out there just mauling people. Larry Allen comes to mind. Nate Newton. You didn't want to see those guys on game day. I just don't get the feel from this group.
There's not that dog mentality across the table. There's just not. And I think that is part of it. Now, the fans are frustrated today, and rightfully so. You can speak more, I think, as a professional franchise fan because you pay good money to watch these guys. You buy all the gear. It is not an inexpensive ordeal to take a family to a Cowboys or any NFL game. So you have the right. They don't have the right to throw things on the field, as we saw.
That's Bush League.
That was Bush League of the Cowboy fans, if that's what they were throwing at their own players. But what do you think? What can you tell these fans? Can you say, all right, I thought about this before we started this episode. This is all another step in the progression of the development of this organization under McCarthy. Does that have any credence or legitimacy?
Well, let's be honest. You remember my friend Chan Gailey, when Chan Gailey was the coach of the Cowboys for 2 years back in the 1990s after Barry Switzer. after Chan Gailey came in, I think he had a winning record after 2 seasons, but they weren't winning playoff games. They fired him. And then for the next 3 years, I don't think they won more than 5 or 6 games, any of those 3 seasons.
Nope.
It was really bad. This is where I'm optimistic. I feel like from a youth and talent perspective, the Cowboys have the pieces to compete in the NFC for at least the next 3 to 4 seasons. When you've got receivers like CeeDee Lamb, you've got tight ends like Dalton Schultz, you've got a quarterback that's now under contract for a long time. I think Zeke was less than 100% for most of this season, but Tony Pollard's a hell of a running back.
He is great.
I think defensively, if you take say they take another linebacker in the draft or get another corner or safety in the draft, you've got a front 7, in my opinion, that's as good as any of them out there. You know, Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit. Will he be back? We don't know yet. Probably not. Looks like he's going to be in Denver by the end of the week. But I think the Cowboys' pieces are in place, unlike in the 90s when they went through that horrible 4 to 5 year stretch. Dallas is going to win 12 to 13 games every year simply because they're in a crap division. Washington's horrible. The Eagles are clearly not any good. And the Giants, who knows what the Giants are going to put on the field. So the Cowboys are starting with a +1 advantage just because of the division they play in. But I think that once you get to the players and the personnel, put them position by position with San Francisco and tell me how many of the Niners had better than Dallas outside of Deebo Samuel and perhaps a couple of defensive players. Really, I mean, player for player, 22 on 22. I would take Dallas probably 17 out of 22 maybe.
All day as far as talent. But that's something about the 49ers, though, that gritty, grimy, dirty, in-your-face dog mentality. Some of the Cowboys have it, but collectively as a team, not enough. I think San Francisco almost broke their will at one point.
I think you're right. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about setting a culture for a team. Look, Kyle Shanahan replaced his defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of the New York Jets, after going to the Super Bowl with him. And now it appears he's I can't remember who their coordinator is now, but I'm sure he's just as good. Former player, I can't think of his name. But they've got so many cultural things happening in San Francisco now that it's kind of like Alabama in college football. They put in Bill O'Brien, who takes Steve Sarkisian's place, and they go to the national championship game. Culture matters, and I think that's where the Cowboys are. They've got the ingredients to the cake, to use Tom Herman's analogy. They haven't quite mixed them all together and put the icing on, but I feel like once they do that, if they can find the guy, if McCarthy's not the guy, find the guy that can do it, like the 49ers have with a mediocre quarterback. Decent run game, obviously. Great run game, to be honest. But no better talent than Dallas has. It's a cultural thing for them.
It is. I really respect the Charlie Strong reference you made.
That's right. Charlie Strong putting the cake in. That's right.
Cake's been baked.
That's right.
A lot of people put this on Zeke and say, I've heard, let's trade Zeke. But you know what? Zeke was, like you said, not 100%, nor was it offensive line. And his rookie year, in those first 2 years, the offensive line was dominant. And now he's earning every yard that he receives. Now, one thing that is, as you know all too well, free agency is a big deal. Here's some names, and I'll run down. It's just the key names. We'll start with offense. Dalton Schultz, Michael Gallup, Cedric Wilson, Connor Williams, Randy Gregory, Armstrong on defense, linebackers Leighton Vander Esch and Keno Neal, and the defensive backs J-Ron Kearse, DeMonte Kazee, and I think Malik Hooker. So of those names, do you say Dallas needs to try to re-sign all of those guys?
Nah, I don't think so. I think Gallup would be a big sign. Obviously, the injury is a problem there. Cedric Wilson played great, I thought, yesterday.
He did.
He came within an eyelash of catching that long pass on desperation from Dak in the fourth quarter that would have changed the – he was a huge part of what they did once Gallup went down. Will they sign both he and Gallup? I don't know. They've given Gregory so many chances now. I don't see why you don't give him another one. The guy's pretty good when he's healthy and he's got his mind right. I don't think Connor Williams is back. I don't see how they can bring him back. The guy's just got too many issues to deal with when it comes to penalties. Defensively, Van Der Esch played pretty good, but is he as good as he's ever going to get? Probably. So do you give that money to somebody else? Bring in somebody else? You've got your other linebacker forever for the next 10 to 15 years. Micah Parsons is going to be a rich, rich man in 2 years. And then you've got the secondary, and I think that's where they go in the first round this year. I think they take either the best corner or the best safety, whichever one's better, when they pick at 23 or 24, whoever's left on the board, unless they move up. I wish they would move up and take the linebacker out of Georgia, pair him with Micah Parsons, get the two edges, whoever it is, DeMarcus Lawrence, even move Parsons over there if you got Randy Gregory back. I think the defense is fine. I don't know what they do offensively. I think they've got you. I think you paid Zeke. You're going to keep Zeke ain't going anywhere. Not this year, unless somebody offers him a crazy draft day deal for Zeke Elliott, which he's injured and getting on the backside of 20 now. So Tony Pollard's clearly the guy that's going to fill in when that's all said and done. But I don't know, man. I don't give up on Zeke just yet. When the one drive they had yesterday where they actually moved the ball, it was running the football.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about Connor Williams going back to tackle?
I don't see how he could play tackle. He can't quit holding it guard. You know? I mean, he's holding it guard. If he's facing edge rushers, he's going to be holding every play. And I get it. Holding is something they could call every play.
Every play.
I want him to be a star. The guy had a great story going back to North Texas after a great college career, and it just hasn't worked out for him. I don't think he's done in the league. Is he a starter? He's got work to do. From my, fan eyes, I'm not a coach. I don't see, maybe technique-wise, he's one of the best. I don't know. I just know that he was replaced in the starting lineup for a while and can't quit getting yellow flags. And, Sean, you know as well as anybody, you can't win with penalties. You can't win with 14 penalties. That's a lot of penalties for a month.
It's the pre-snap ones that bother me. Really. I mean,
in the pass interference, there were so many of those this year too. Not yesterday so much, but
and then the hands in the face, which removed it quickly. Incidental. I don't know. It was just bizarre, and I think as much as I hate saying this, I really, really hate admitting this. That the fact that I think how it all went down, Dallas rallying, then coming down to that one play, just summed up the entire season in one.
That's a great point.
It's absolutely terrible, B. But you know what? 6 months from now, you and I are going to be right back, probably on here, talking about how excited we are about the Cowboys season.
Hey, there's not much to not be excited about. You've got, like we talked about, you've got the nucleus of a pretty darn good team, a team that at one point late in the season was the number one seed in the NFC. You got guys who can win. Now you got to make sure they do the right things to get the wins. They can do it, but you got to give them the knowledge and the wherewithal when you get down 16, 13 points in the first half of a game, figure out how to get back in the game. And, I guess to some extent they did that yesterday. They got the gift turnover, but then the penalties.
And it's they had opportunities, but they also had so many giveaways, if you will. Gifted San Fran, and it wouldn't surprise me, man, if San Fran goes to Green Bay and wins if they match that level of intensity and physicality. I don't know. Anything can happen. They've been there before.
They've got the weapons to win, and in fact, defensively, if Bosa's back, I don't know what his status is. I haven't seen today, but he's a game changer, and I don't think Green Bay has any answer for what they're going to do defensively now. Green Bay's going to score, clearly. They've got weapons at running back, quarterback, and receivers. So it's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to watching it. I sure wish it was not San Francisco playing them. I wish it was the winner of tonight's game playing them, but because that would mean the Cowboys were in Tampa, which I felt like they had a chance to beat Tampa. But we're not going to know this year.
We won't find out. I think this is kind of like that 1991 season for the Cowboys. Year 2. Year three, you got blasted against Detroit. They didn't get blasted this time, but I think next year's probably a good setup. You like we've been discussing, improve that O-line and the secondary. And now we're talking something different. I really do.
I hope you're right. I think they've, like we saw, I think they've got the ability, the players to do it. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And Jimmy Johnson ain't walking through those doors. So Mike McCarthy's got to figure out how to get that drive, desire, back in this team, because I don't know. They just didn't seem like they cared yesterday as much as
that's a great observation. Before we wrap this up, man, what's on the agenda at KVUE, the Channel of Champions? What's the big stories that affect us all locally or in the great state of Texas?
Well, I mean, we're moving into February, and everybody, when you say February now, everybody's worried about what happened last February.
God,
and
yes.
We've talked a lot on KVUE about the preparations that have been made via the energy providers and the services. And so hopefully we're looking at a situation where maybe the weather won't be as bad. We won't have to worry about it. But I think they've made the right changes. At least they say they've made the right changes to keep that from happening again. And now with COVID-19, who knows, man? It seems like we get a report every single day, local, state, national. Yeah. And man, we're pretty high right now, Sean. But I hope that by the time we get to Longhorn baseball season here in just a few weeks from now, those numbers are going to start dipping back down. People are going to be back in class, and me and you are going to be out at the dish.
At the dish, big dog, cold beverage. And ERCOT, if you're watching this amazing special episode, take care of our grid system. Governor Abbott, allocate the funds. Let's make it happen. Don't make us take care of our elderly. And don't make us. We've been sitting at home the last 2 years. We don't need to sit at home anymore without any utilities. And we need baseball season to happen. The most beautiful place in the world, according to two biased guys on this podcast right now, is Dish Falk Field.
Dish Falk in March and April. Can't beat it.
You can't beat it. B. Mays, much love. You're a great husband, great father, a good Longhorn fan, and an excellent, amazing, loyal Dallas Cowboy fan.
Be there till the end. I'm not jumping off this bandwagon yet.
No, I'm not. I'm just frustrated as hell right now.
Me too, brother. Good to talk to you.
We're in this together.
Hey, I'm not going anywhere. We'll see in August. We'll be ready.
Oh, we will. For the broadcasting legend that he is, B. Mays, and for the OG Man Cave Boys, Hardball Hards, Big Mike, and the Coach Mo, who coined the phrase, wake yo ass up, we out.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.